Hi everyone, good morning to you. How are you doing? So this morning I want to share something very interesting. Mike Arnold, the congressional hearing, congressional briefing, not hearing, please. Congressional briefing. So this is different between real people and fake people. I'm gonna share this. This is gonna just be the part where Mike Arnold made his speech. Okay, that's what I'm gonna share with you because I don't want it to be too long. And you see how
Regime that's
you
empowering
now
our
see how he addressed, how he presented his words, what he said about Nigeria and insecurity. Everything is going to play out here. So I just want you to like the video and share it to many platforms of your choice. I want to use this opportunity to inform you that we are going to have Mark Arnold here in this channel on Monday. Okay, Monday next week. Today's date is 25th of June 2026, Thursday for that matter. So on Monday, this next Monday, we are gonna have him here 7 p.m. Biafran time. So save the date. And one thing again is that many people who claim they are going to Washington D.C. When I say many, you know who the group I'm referring to. They are going to Washington D.C. and all that. People like Mike Arnold, after making this kind of speech, and when he begin to eat fruit, somebody will tell you that because of the Briggy efforts, and Nigerian government, Nigerian media are actually helping them in a very special way. Daily Post and so many Vanguard and the rest of them, they are carrying their news. Not they're carrying. These guys are paying them to carry it. To be honest, I know they're not going to accept it, but that's what I feel, and that's what I believe on. I'm not telling that I call them, I have intel. No, I'm telling my gut feelings, like my own feelings. What I feel in my mind is that they are the one paying those Nigerian mainstream media platforms and what have you to carry their news, and they are just fronting it on you for you to see, just for them to, because they all they do is to seek relevance, nothing more, nothing less. So we are going to be live immediately after this recording video. I'll be live in our second platform, so through Dex. Those of you that have not subscribed to that channel, you are not helping us at all. Please make sure you follow us on our second platform. And how can you locate it? Very simple. The name is here on the screen. All you need to do, go to YouTube and type at, sorry about that, not this one. This is my X. Okay, all you need to do is just go to YouTube and type at True Desk. Okay, like this, True Desk _001. True Desk _001. Just as it is on your screen, and subscribe there and do the needful. Then again, I want to also inform you about Ada Simon Ekpa, whom her channel was tampered with by Indomekome. So please, you can as well go to her channel as well and subscribe for her. All you need to type is this as well, Ada Simon, okay, official X1J. So subscribe for her as well. But if you want to make sure you are not missing anything that we do, these two channel can report, which you are watching this video from, and of course our own backup channel, which is True Desk. Okay, and our Twitter is there as well. Okay, you can search us on Twitter with this. Now, having informed you this, I want you to understand something, because I'm going to be live there to talk about these people that are secret phone callers. Okay, I will just spend maybe a couple of minutes. I'm not going to spend a long time immediately after this video. So even if you maybe, I don't know when you're going to watch it, you can also check the video out there, follow us and subscribe there. Now, okay, Karen had his own he first said congressional briefing, later congressional hearing, later he's now saying congressional briefing. So whichever way, when you see how other people, conduct their own, their own briefing, congressional briefing, you can see the orderliness. And when that one begin to yield fruit, so now will begin to disturb, their followers, that what Brig is doing somewhere is yielding good fruit. It's laughable, but it can only work on anyone who is not paying attention. Let's go to the powerful message, powerful effort of Mark Arnold. Like I told you on Monday, he will be here with us. Listen.
Empower Nigeria today withstands Donald Trump, survives it. The backlash will make the Biafran genocide look like a warm-up act.
We have with us today someone who has risked his life, someone who has been on ground, someone who has actually committed his resources to build schools for children who have been displaced from their homes, somebody who has empowered women to start life again, someone who was to be bought by Nigerian government and he refused. After that, he was maligned and he was threatened. But his work has exposed a lot about Nigerian government and also about those who walk in that shadow. So I would like to invite to this podium for our dear brother, and he is former mayor of a small town city in Texas, Blanco. So please welcome to this podium with me, Mark Arnold.
Thank you so much. I have printed copies of my testimony here, fully documented. I want to make sure that everything I say is perfectly factual, so I'm going to rely on my testimony here as I present it. Has all the citations, and I'm happy to provide follow-up. Much of this is eyewitnessed by myself or by my personal contacts all over the country. I've been to Nigeria 16 times since 2010. I've met in depth with two distinguished former presidents, Gwoza and Jonathan. I've spent considerable time with the Catholic Cardinal, governors, presidents, senators. I've met with cabinet ministers of this current administration. And I've been all over, from Bukuma to Makoko to Bokos, all through there. So I don't speak just from a keyboard. I speak from boots on the ground. Ngoshe is a small town in the Gwoza local government area. It's in northeast Borno State, which is in the northeast side of Nigeria, and it's right along the mountainous border with Cameroon. The story of Ngoshe is a microcosm of the story of Nigeria. I personally know many of its people, the displaced, the people that are still there, even members of the military that are stationed there, and I talk to them regularly. For a century, up to 2014, this area, Gwoza, was a peaceful Christian region. It had 176 churches. This was a Christian area. The terror in 2014 began in the marketplace. Men rode in on motorcycles, started harassing and killing people. The eyewitnesses there say they were lighter-skinned foreigners, seemingly from North Africa. The first wave. This confirms the wider record of jihadis being imported during that time frame. There's eyewitnesses to back that up. When the main attack came, the terrorists, Boko Haram, actually dressed up in hijabs and approached the military. They welcomed them, and then they pulled off the hijabs and started slaughtering them. The town of Ngoshe had 6 churches. The attackers destroyed every single one and didn't touch any mosque. When a single church was left standing, the men of the village surrounded it with bows and arrows to defend it. The military came in and started killing them. They had been told that Christians were the threat. When they learned the truth, they took off their uniforms en masse and went AWOL and hiked with 2,000 citizens into Cameroon, the military unit there. And the eyewitnesses say if the Nigerian government denies it, Cameroon won't. The military was told the Christians were the threat. Some 100,000 or more Christians from the Gwoza area displaced at the time, scattered across at least 27 camps in 7 states, plus at least 33,000 that went into Cameroon and were able to stay there. At least 8 displacement camps are in Abuja today. That's the capital, holding some 30,000 people. I stumbled into one in 2019, had no idea what was going on. Now I run free schools in 3 of those camps. Most of the displaced in those camps, at least the ones I serve, are from Gwoza. The UNHCR documented these camps in detail in 2015. In 2020, when I contacted them for help, they deny those camps exist. They're still there. The people are still there. The documented evidence from 2015 is still there. Now they say it never happened. It's not there. The government calls these people criminals, vagrants, beggars, anything but displaced. And they go in and occasionally bulldoze their camps. They're harassed and they're neglected. They've had to build their own shanties. You're talking widows and orphans, women and children living in shanties next to sewage ditches, some for a decade now. The government denies them. The intentional denial of recognition and aid to displaced in this circumstance legally qualifies as genocide. This government is guilty of genocide, and I can prove it. Yes. You can just walk into one of these camps in Abuja and prove that this government is guilty of genocide legally. Yes. In May of 2024, 10 years after the Gwoza massacre, the Tinubu administration very proudly declared that Boko Haram had been defeated. It was about that time, now Ambassador Rino Omokri begged me to nominate NSA Nuhu Rabadu for the Nobel Prize. I know Rabadu. For defeating Boko Haram. I asked him for proof and he dropped the subject. 2 months later, my documentary team visited Ngoshe in Gwoza with 2 of the displaced from the Abuja camp. From Maiduguri, they had to travel in a military convoy. They had to stop and defuse a roadside IED. What they found in Ngoshe was post-apocalyptic. The community, churches and schools in ruins still. The people living in fear and squalor inside a military cordon. Our team had to leave in 45 minutes because Boko Haram was spotted just a kilometer away. They defeated Boko Haram. Before they left, they met a military chaplain who had built a new church there. Amazing man. More Than Conquerors Church. In October of 2024, 2 months after my team stood inside that church, Boko Haram filmed a recruitment video from Ngoshe. It featured members of that congregation taken while gathering food. An older man was beheaded with dull axe and his head held up while the crowd cheered. Dozens were treated that way. A young girl from the church was sold into sex slavery. Earlier this year, 2026, when support for the refugees still in Cameroon dried up, the Nigerian government told them it was safe to come home and paid them to relocate back to Ngoshe. The government told them it was safe, paid them. 35 days later, on March 3rd, Boko Haram attacked them. Most of the garrison of more than 200 soldiers dropped their guns and ran. Of those who stayed, at least 4 soldiers were beheaded, hundreds of civilians were killed, more than 300 were abducted, including the nieces of an acquaintance of mine. The More Than Conquerors Church was destroyed. 3 days later, the attackers stood in the central mosque of Ngoshe, declared the region conquered, and renamed it for their caliphate. Earlier this month, the Nigerian government announced the dramatic rescue of more than 400 women and children there. In truth, there was no rescue. The captives had been held 3 kilometers from the military base the whole time. A ransom of roughly 6 billion naira, more than $4 million, was paid in U.S. currency. Nearly 10 years of that entire local area government's budget handed by the Nigerian government to a designated foreign terrorist organization. I've spoken with the man who brokered these terms. He has terrorists on tape confirming it. Others on the ground confirm it too. The Nigerian government called it a rescue. When the release was announced, my acquaintance went there to look for his nieces. He was told they were not released because they had resisted converting to Islam. Most of the women and children released were not even from Ngoshe. We don't know where they were from. The women were wearing hijabs, forcibly converted as the price of release. An imam has been recruited by Boko Haram specifically to convert the remaining Christians that are still held captive in the mountains. This is Ngoshe. This is Nigeria. The pattern is consistent. The churches burned, the mosques are spared. At every turn, the Nigerian government is either complicit or catastrophically incompetent. It declared an enemy defeated that was a kilometer away and still staging mass beheading videos. It encouraged and paid Christians to return to a kill zone. It handed millions of US dollars cash to a terrorist organization and called it a rescue. It attacks those who defend themselves, abandons its own soldiers, denies its own displaced, and through all of it, it lies to its own people, to the press, to the United States, while paying Washington lobbyists to keep the lie running. Now here's the bigger picture. This is not just religious persecution. It's not just a humanitarian crisis. What's happening in Nigeria is an ongoing Islamic jihad conquest with global ambitions. It must not be filed under international religious freedom, where good causes go to die. This is a vital national security issue. Nigeria is the 6th largest nation on earth, on track to be the 3rd largest by 2050. 1 in 13 humans alive will be a Nigerian at that time. It's a top 5 OPEC producer with $1 trillion in minerals. Its trajectory is unstoppable. The only question is who controls it and whether it carries great good or great evil. This is what you must know. Nigeria is captured by a 220-year-old Fulani caliphate. They project the illusion of secular democracy like a reverse Wakanda to hide its rotten core. The caliphate was the largest pre-colonial empire in Africa, and it is still today the largest enslaver of free Africans in the history of the world. Still doing it. Its founder was a Fulani warlord, Usman Dan Fodio, a blood descendant of Muhammad. His teachings are widely revered and taught today. His grave site's like a mini Mecca, they call it. He founded the caliphate explicitly to be the platform for the Mahdi, the prophesied jihad messiah. This is all through his writings and his teachings, which are still taught and revered today. To purify the platform for the Mahdi, he taught and practiced a virulent doctrine that Muslims who do not submit to their rule and join the jihad must be slaughtered. This is, of course, in addition to Christians and others who stand in the way. That's Dan Fodio's doctrine that's taught today and revered. The colonial British did not conquer the caliphate. They co-opted and rebranded it, partnering with it as their enforcers and deal makers. They called it indirect rule and locked in its control and independence. They armed, supported, and covered for it when it starved some 3 million Nigerians to death, mostly children, during 30 months in 1967 to 1970 for refusing to submit to the caliphate. They ruled through military dictatorship until 1999, when one of those dictators wrote and inflicted a constitution that mentions Sharia in Islamic terms 165 times, not one Christian reference. It ensures the Caliphate North permanent control of political power, money, minerals, the military, and government jobs. That's what Nigeria is today. The same tribe, the same tactics, the same results, what we are seeing today in Nigeria is one unbroken jihad and genocide since 1804, following the methods, the teaching, and the prophecy of the caliphate's founder. This is the longest running genocide on earth today. In total, up to 6 million killed, 10 million enslaved, and 25 million displaced since it began, unbroken. By my own calculation, and it's drawn from the historic record. The ruling elite is stronger and more in control now than ever. They continue to purify Nigeria to be the Mahdi's platform, and they are on the verge of completely hijacking the nation's trajectory. Today, the man rewriting Nigeria's national curriculum, every subject, every grade level, is literally the top scholar for the Boko Haram philosophy. He calls his work intellectual jihad. He controls the classrooms of some 50 million Nigerian children today. That's who's in charge of the classroom. Literally the top scholar for the Boko Haram philosophy, intellectual jihad, appointed by President Tinubu. The government recently signed a military training deal with Turkey, which works through an organization called Sadat. The group's founder said he founded this entity to prepare for the Mahdi, and they recruit their trainers from active ISIS fighters in Syria. That's who's training the Nigerian military. Tinubu did that as well. The 8 or more black flag groups across the Middle Belt and North now pulling as much as $3 billion a year through organized crime. Blood minerals sold to China, mass abduction for ransom, and the slave trade, heroin, trafficking, and extortion. $3 billion a year, just like Mohammed raided the camel caravans to fund the jihad. That's what banditry is. Today, as many as 10 to 12 million displaced persons have as much as a 50 to 60% chance of being radicalized without intervention. Another 10 to 15 million are being raised as al-Majiri. Those are boys who are given to the imam to be raised in the madrasas in the north, fed pure jihad theology, fed Danfodia. And foreign fighters continue to flood in through open door borders. Think about that. This is a ticking time bomb. To reiterate, the mass of al-Majiri, displaced and incoming foreigners, numbering 20 million or more total, with their classrooms controlled by literally the top scholar of Boko Haram, and their military being trained by seasoned ISIS fighters to prepare for the Mahdi, they are building a massive radical jihad army on an unprecedented scale. That's happening in Nigeria as we speak. The Nigerian government is fully captured. Its structure, people, and politics, and it is irredeemable. Its corrupt electoral system is mostly a contest over who can loot the most while carrying the caliphate's water. It cannot and will not stop this 220-year jihad purification project. Lately, it has pivoted hard to China. Chinese investment in 2025 leapt to $24.6 billion for the year. That's a 13-fold jump over 2024, the largest of any nation. Beijing elevated Nigeria to its top partnership tier, and Nigerian banks now settle directly in yuan, all of which make it effectively immune to US sanctions. The jihad has already drawn American blood on American soil. The Old Dominion University shooter or attacker who killed Lieutenant Brandon Shaw made his contact with ISIS in Nigeria. I am concerned that our president is surrounded by deeply conflicted advisors and a highly paid army of lobbyists intent on ensuring this corrupt regime remains in power. It is interesting to note that so far, supposedly coordinated with the Nigerian government, the US has only struck jihad factions that are not loyal to the caliphate. Here's how we stop it. 1, pursue genocide charges against the leaders of this administration. Their deliberate denial of recognition and aid to millions of displaced meets the legal definition of genocide and is provable. Treat them like the genocidal tyrants that they are. 2, investigate and move to designate the Sokoto Caliphate as a terrorist organization. H.R. 7457's foreign terrorist organization designation for Fulani militias and Miyadi Allah is the first step. The Sultan of Sokoto, ruler of the Caliphate, is the apex Fulani leader and chairman of Miyadi Allah. 3, lead an international census of the displaced with evidentiary interviews, their eyewitnesses to genocide, and rush them aid. 4, keep bombing the jihadis, not just ISIS, every black flag group, the Fulani militias included. And 5, secure a free and fair election in 2027 with a referendum on a new constitution that bans Sharia and guarantees self-determination, letting the nations of Nigeria choose their own form of government and their own boundaries in peace. The people can build a great nation if we let them. When we do, we won't just secure our most important ally in a dark part of the world. We'll keep the fastest growing nation on earth from becoming a launch pad for global jihad, which is exactly where it's headed today. And let me say one more thing. If this current regime that's in power in Nigeria today withstands Donald Trump, survives it, the backlash will make the Biafran genocide look like a warm-up act. They've already said that anybody that said the word genocide is guilty of sedition, and that's a death sentence. When the first CPC designation was dropped by the Biden administration, that flared up, bloodshed just skyrocketed. If they withstand Trump's administration, if this government, if the Tinubu administration withstands Trump,
I hear you.
the backlash will be unimaginable, and it'll be over. And that, I believe that with all of my heart. Now I'm gonna share a video.
Gospel
of a young
truth.
man from Ngoshe. A little bit of background because you're going to see him hold this up. In 2021, under Buhari, it was very brutal. We had to have a cover story to get in, and a elaborate ruse to not be killed. They had just killed or arrested and tortured an Israeli documentary crew. They were released 4 days before we arrived to do the same thing. So it was a little bit dicey, but we were able to have a couple pastors from the north that joined us, that were smuggled to us. And they were independent of each other, but they both, and I'm happy to, these are copies, hand them around. But they had spent years documenting the Gwoza massacre. And I bring that up because this testimony is a young man that now works for my organization, Enoch Yohanna. If you please watch the video.
Yes, I know this man.
You know him?
Yes. He's a close friend to my dad.
Oh my goodness, I wonder if your father's in here.
I also know this. I know this. And this is my uncle.
Oh my goodness.
I think almost all this. They were killed the same day. This. Also this.
Yeah.
He's a medical lab science. This also my uncle. This is also Matthias. We call him Tarko. He's my cousin from Barawa. Also this. So there's from where my mom comes from, Barawa. I think no need of. Have a lot of people that My name is Enoch Yohanna. I am from Goshe in Gwoza local government area of Borno State,
So painful.
Nigeria.
If it is
I have been displaced since 2014. Today, I am speaking as a survivor and as an IDP liaison officer for African Arise. On November 4th, 2013, Boko Haram attacked my village at midnight. We ran nearly 9 kilometers to report to the military. They told us that they had no fuel. Even when money was given, they did not come. By morning, our village was burned to ashes and many people were killed. On 27th September 2014, I lost many people, including my father. My brother's wife was abducted and children. That's how I lost my home. I come to Abuja in 2014 and live in an IDP camp for more than a decade. There was no clinic, no doctor, no government, no hope. In that time, I helped deliver 54 babies. Every one of them saved alive. Mothers, we started a school. We taught ourselves. We survived the best way we could. In November 2024, the camp was still demolished. We were given about 4 days' notice. They come with bulldozers, gun, and clear everywhere. We were given a compensation of about $20,000, around $12, and no place to go. We become homeless again. After 10 years, we become homeless again and again. In 2024, I went back to my village under military escort. We only allowed to stay for about 45 minutes. It was terrible. Everything was gone. Home destroyed. No hope of going back. Churches, over 50 were burned, abandoned in ashes. There was nothing left. Nothing, actually nothing. I know speaking like this is not safe for me and my people. In the past, I was beaten for I wrote about what was happening in the camp. Even now, speaking the truth put me in danger. My life will be in danger. My family's life will be in danger. I was attacked when I arrived back at the camp, beaten, threatened. But I cannot just look away as they continue to carry out the exact same genocide attack on more and more villages across the country. This is because we are not safe. I will not sit down and fold my arms seeing the terrorist sponsor telling the lies. There is no genocide in Nigeria. Or there are other frequent lies, the minor clash between farmers and herders conflict. I cannot be silenced. My friends, my family, my everything have gone. Many are still suffering. Many are dying. This is not just an appeal. This is a plea. This is the truth. The world needs to know about this. The world needs to know what is happening so it can be understood and addressed totally. Because what is being said publicly is not what we have lived in for decades. I am telling you what I have seen, what I have seen, what I have perceived. I have lived in for decades. Thank you.
Wow, this is a good.
Boko Haram are being rehabilitated. Now, what they do, after the rehabilitation, they fill form, they ask questions. How many people have you killed? So if you kill 50, you have your own class. 50 and above, 20, I have never killed. So if you have never killed, maybe you stay there 1 month.
All right, so I'm gonna say, I don't want video to be too long. That's why I did. Prophet. That's why I did not say much in the entire video, because I don't want the video to be too long. This is 30-something minutes already. So before I end, have you seen how congressional briefing is being conducted? How it's being done? Did you notice something? Projector display of, it will be just like education, documentary, giving you what can compare it with that of your brother, as I young. And again, everything going on in Nigeria today, all the helps American government talking started like this. Because tomorrow, some people will come and tell you we are the one. That's why I always tell them that it's not true. Some think that I'm saying that because I don't like the guy. No. But truth, you have to say the truth. Truth must be told. You cannot cover this truth forever. Do you understand? And credit to Arnold and whoever that managed to get this done, with him and all that. Even though some of us have issue with this, it kind of their voice is being not Arnold, please. Like you can see Alex here in the picture. His clothes. This is his T-shirt. He's written "Save Nigeria," and it is not actually because I don't know why he's still not on. He don't understand the problem of Nigeria, or I don't know. But like I said, Arnold will be here on Monday. So if you have any question for him that are not outside his own life, please don't come and ask, about fundraising and all that. We need to be. It's not that different. There's difference between interview and debate. They are not the same. I'm gonna end it here. Please do me a favor, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. See you again. Let me know what you think about this effort, this wonderful speech of Mike Arnold, and the exposition of what is going on and all that. I'm happy for him. I mean, he agreed that Nigeria cannot be fixed unless something is being done, very, very, very importantly, because some are still waiting for a miracle to fall from somewhere to fix it. It's not going to happen. Let me know what you think about it on the comment section, and don't forget to like the video. God bless you and take care of yourself.